All right, welcome, guys, to the Valley Podcast, episode number 2. Today, I have a guest that is a good family friend of ours. We got to know each other over the last couple of years. He does a variety of things, entrepreneur, former pro ball player, former pro scout, former pro coach. He's a recording artist, an author, and honestly, a gauntlet of other things I'm probably missing right now. So without further ado, I want to thank CJ Beatty for being with us today, man. Thanks for being with us.
I appreciate it, D. Thank you for giving me this distinct pleasure of being on the podcast, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
I want to start, I kind of want to go back to your early childhood. Tell me a little bit about what being in the Beatty household was like.
Wow, it was well, my dad was a truck driver, so I had to grow up a lot faster than most. You know, with me I'm the oldest of 4. So with him being a truck driver, you know, we saw him during the week, maybe in the mornings, but then by the time we go to sleep, it depends on how far he had to drive. I had to get up and do a lot of his things, warm the car and making sure the lights are off from outdoors that's been on all night. All of those things that typically you might not have to do, but you had to step up. But that lifestyle for us, I think everybody had to kind of step up in the family. So it was more so rise to the occasion was the Beatty mantra, to make sure everything was happening. But that obviously helped set a solid foundation for me. Kind of rise to the occasion.
Did you ever, at a young age, was there ever an age where you resented that a little bit?
Yes, because I never really got a chance to. It was opportunities that I wanted to go to parties growing up, and why do I got to come in at 10 when all these other people and teammates get, their parents let them come back in at 12 o'clock in the morning, and why I got to be here? Why does my parent got to come pick me up? There was a lot of times like that I looked. But at the time, I never did look at that as a problem. I mean, I looked at that as a problem. And you don't appreciate it until you get older. You know what I'm saying? And I'm thankful that I had two loving parents that were stayed on me. So shout out to the parents out there that think that their kids are just not listening, because I was definitely not listening. But by the time I got older, I'm just so glad that my parents never gave up. Those kitchen talks went a long way. Those long car rides home went a long way. Even though it looked like I wasn't listening, words stick. Words stick.
Was with your dad's travel with being a truck driver, did that limit him and able to come to watch you play a lot?
I think it limited. He set up his schedule based off of his seniority to allow him weekends.
Oh, nice.
So he got to majority, if not all. He set up his schedule to get to all of my games on the weekends. I just think that he just wasn't physically always able and present during the week. You know what I'm saying? So the practices was a mom dropping you off at practice or grandparents dropping you off at practice. Being over your grandparents' house, hitting off of the tee and things of that nature. But he worked hard during the week, but he was able to get to the games on the weekends.
Now he was kind of a legend football player locally. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Yes, locally my pops was the guy, you know what I'm saying? And he had to grow up early. That's why it stopped at being locally. So he had to get a job fresh out of high school. Now he didn't go to college. But yeah, locally, man, it was tall tales of him cracking helmets back in Pop Warner, and he was a head hunter, and they were like, "Oh man, what you know about your pops, man? He used to do all this and do all that." You know how kids, you roll your eyes, you're like, "All right, man." Yeah, I hear. But yeah, from the talks of it, he was a head hunter back in the day.
That's funny. Did he ever try to put pressure on you to play football?
No. Actually, he was a great husband and listened to his wife. I wanted to play football. I mean, most kids want to play football like Pop Warner, because Pop Warner is always going to be more attractive than playing Little League baseball.
Yeah.
You know, everybody talked about playing. Who do you play football for? What side of town do you live on? You either play for the Greyhounds, the Pofftown Raiders, the Titans, or do you play for the Panthers, South Fork Panthers? So I remember growing up and kids wearing their Pop Warner jerseys in elementary school and wanting to be a part of that. But rightfully so, my mother said, nah. My son ain't gonna get broken bones and all that at a young age. And this was before the helmet thing came out about concussions. This is way before that. But she's like, my son is not gonna be at the bottom of some pile getting broken up.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna play something that's more safe. Wow. So I played soccer, I played basketball, and played baseball growing up.
Did you play those three sports all the way through? Did you ever kind of do away with the other two and just focus on baseball, or did you do it all the way through high school?
In my tiny tyke life, I played, all three.
Yep.
And sometimes I doubled up. We'd go to a basketball practice and then go to baseball and vice versa. But as you got into serious sports, it just broke away to two. I never played football until I was never allowed to play football until I got to high school.
Okay.
So, of course, I went running towards football.
Sure.
As soon as I turned into ninth grade, I'm like, yeah, I get to put shoulder pads on. Yeah, let's go. And I loved football. I really did love football. I mean, there's nothing, I tell you, there's nothing better than Friday night football in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. If you was at a sorry school, then you can't relate to this. You can't relate to this. But if you was at a powerhouse, if you was at a school that was always competing and always had aspirations of a state championship, I mean, walking through the halls with your jersey on, you know what I'm saying? Being in class, and when it's a rival week, that whole week, everybody's looking for the game. Parents is talking about it. Your family, we're coming to the game, boy. We're coming to the game. Don't disappoint. Boy, you better be starting. I'm like, well, I can't make the coach, start me. But, we're going. So, but it was nothing better than that. But I had to make a decision. Yeah. And that turning point, even though I loved football, I really loved baseball, but I knew that I was not equally as talented in football than I was in baseball. So I had to make a decision. Sure. And I made that decision after my junior year. Okay. Of my high school careers, when I decided to say, after my senior year, I'm dedicating it all to baseball, so I get locked in and get ready for the next level. That's
cool. Now you in your book, you talk about how your dad had really high expectations for you. Mm-hmm. It was kind of nothing but the best. Mm-hmm. Expected winning, right? All this stuff. How did you react to that at a young age, going all the way through?
I don't really think that I don't think that I ever resented my father for the way he pushed me. I never looked at it like I'm doing this for my father. He never pushed me like that. But he did put me in situations where he didn't tolerate good. He wanted greatness. And he always, because he never played at a high level of anything other than high school sports, right? But my dad was back then he was a stickler for library, like going to read a book. The Ted Williams book. He'll read up on an article that Jeff Bagwell, these are the people that he raised me on, Jeff Bagwell, Wade Boggs, Tony Gwynn. These are the guys, Pete Rose, and how he was Charlie Hustle and how he played the game, hard-nosed, right? So he raised me on these guys. Look at them. Look at the way he's standing. Look what he does with 2 strikes. Look at all this. So I think that was the reason why, because my dad didn't really force it down my throat. He just did a very good job of when he kept my plate filled. And if I was continuously eating it, he put a little bit more on the plate. And when I rose to the occasion of eating that, he put a little bit more on my plate. He didn't overfeed me and say, you better get this. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it was, because I can't look back and be like, man, I wish my dad didn't. Right. But I think that what I got from, and me give my mom her flowers, I think I got more of a hard-working truck driver mentality from my dad. That gritty, go out there and do it even if you don't like it. Just do it because it's taking care of you. Do it. Just do it. Don't ask. Just do it. But then my mom was more of the meticulous and nurturer of, if you're going to do it this way. Professional, smile, respect, this. So I got the grittiness from my dad of the hardworking, but the professionalism and tuck your shirt tail in and do this and remember and follow up, and it's the way you do everything. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. You know, all of those things from my mother. So shout out to the Rents. Shout out to the Rents.
Well, and actually, that was going to be kind of my next question too, is because obviously I know you do have a good relationship with your parents and how much you're so appreciative of what they've done and how they raised you. Was there something in their parenting style that you try to emulate and with your own daughter?
Oh, wow. Yes. Shiloh. Yeah, I believe that we'll start with my mother. My mother is that one, again, she was very on me to say, son, you was born to stand out. You know what I'm saying? My dad, again, he didn't have that background and upbringing, so to say, as my mother did. You know, his father stepped out of the picture at a young age. So, again, he had to raise himself my grandmother did the best she could, is trying to be a single mom, raising 5 kids. And with him being the oldest and not having a father figure around, so that was tough on him. But where I lacked that type of loving from my dad, my mom kind of played a double role for that. My dad just knew one way: work hard. Don't come in here until you got it figured out. Here's a bucket of balls. Go out there, throw it up and hit it. Go get it, throw it up and hit it. Come in the house. And until you do that, don't come in here. That was my dad. That was my dad, right? And I was just like, all right, cool. I can't come back until I do it. But my mom was just more so, hey, when you go out here, I know they might not be the best players that you're playing with. Keep your head up. Be a great leader. So my dad was more like, you better beat everybody. My mom was like, pick them up. You know, so it was like a great team that they had.
Balance.
I don't even think that they didn't strategically
intentional.
Have
it was just
it just happened to work that way. You know, it was like, CJ, you can't do that. My mom was like, this is how you do it. My dad was like, you can't do that. Don't ever do it again. He leaves. My mom was like, okay, sit down. Let's talk about how this is not going to happen again. You know what I'm saying? So that was great. That was great.
So that's something you'd implement. Is there anything, you know, obviously we all grow up different ways. There's things we loved about our parents, how they brought us up. There's things we didn't like. Is there anything that you would do differently with your daughter than how your parents were raised? Is there anything that you kind of say, yeah, no, I want to change that up a little bit?
Yeah, I think, and this is different times that we live in now too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different era, a different world that we live in from when we were raised and growing up. But one thing I will say that I will do differently, and that I pride myself on striving to be different about, is to have more conversations with it. And my dad didn't. You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
Right? And again, with his father not being present in his life, it's hard for him to be the best father if he didn't have a father. Right? So with me having a father and still learning from other people and learning from, hey, talk to friends and say, how did your father raise you? And how did your father raise you? And how did your father raise you? I think that it helped me start to say, well, when I have a kid, I like how Dave's dad talks to him. I see that. My dad didn't talk to me like that, but I like that. So it's a lot of times that I'm like, oh, wow. So when I have a kid, or now with Shiloh, I'm like, you know, I want to be more intentional about having conversations. Yeah. And instead of because growing up, the parents were on it's my way or the highway stuff.
Do it because I said so.
Do it because I said so. Do as I say, not as I do. And here we go. Don't ask questions. But if it pop, right?
Right.
But it's not like that this day. You can lose a kid more so. I'm not saying that you give in to be a best friend, but just have more conversations. Yeah. And I'm learning that with Shiloh, even at a young age of 3, that I'm not saying, hey, go do that. I'm telling her why.
Yeah.
Hey, don't touch that. I'm explaining to her why not. So I don't just raise my voice to be like, hey, don't touch that. Now go sit down. I don't do that. I say, hey, don't touch that. Come here. Listen, turn around. You see that? So it's just more conversations.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I get it. Do you understand now? Look at daddy. You got it? Okay. Go sit down.
That's
exactly.
And that's probably, as again, being, I have 2 young ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still learning as well. So I don't claim to know anything about parenting yet.
Yes.
You know, we're doing the best we can with what we got. But I would think, that style as far as explaining and stuff, it also helps with critical thinking.
Of course.
Because, we've all had friends that have had strict parents when they lived underneath their parents' household. And then when they got out from underneath that umbrella, they hadn't had that opportunity to really explain why not to do things or this, and then they go crazy, right? And then it's like their life falls apart. Versus maybe if there was a different style, instead of just do it because I said so, you're under my house, I said to do this, just do it. Maybe if there were more conversation, hopefully they would, it just shapes the way they view things and the way they think about things, and why we're doing certain things. I think that's really good and something we try to do as well. And it's tough, right? Because sometimes it's easier and quicker to say because I said so.
Yeah. Right.
It's just like, well, why, it's a lot easier just to be like, well, because I'm your parent and I said to do it that way. But now I've heard about, you started baseball around 5 years old, it seemed like, and obviously you took to it, you multiple sport athlete. What advice would you give to a parent who has a really talented young player on, like, as far as how to raise them? Obviously, you talked about your father, how he had high expectations. Your mother had kind of that the more your heart you talk about in your book, your mom had your heart. What advice would you give for someone who is excelling at a young age, for their parents, I guess, to say how to raise them properly where they don't get to a point where maybe they think they're better than they are, or, some of the pitfalls that happen with someone who's just really talented at a young age. Do you have any advice for a parent of a kid who's really talented at a young age and it?
The first thing that comes to mind is crazy because I'm just going to grab the first thing that jumped. The first thing that jumped in my mind is I think we need to intentionally put your players, all players, not just the talented ones, but intentionally put our players in position to fail. Like soon, ASAP. Because if I can teach them how to win a fight with one hand behind their back, when I free up that other hand, life gets a lot easier. And I think that we talk about that in one of my podcasts. We talked about giving soft landings to kids because of what we've went through growing up. So we work extra hard to make sure that they don't feel the fire burns. But what happens is if you continue to shield them from fire, what happens when you're not there for them to feel the heat? They don't know how to respond. And that's why people, like, if you think about it, that's why some of the most talented, because you said talented players, some of the most talented people, when they get to the big leagues or when they get to the highest part in their career of acting or any side of life, and when adversity sets in, mom and dad ain't there anymore to shield them from the fire, they crash and burn. They become one-hit wonders. They became first-round busts. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I would say the first thing is to position them to fail.
Yeah.
And be there to pick them up while you're here. Be here to pick up the pieces and tell them what to do next time, right? Another example of that is not always trying to put them on the best teams early. Like for real. There's some of my best experiences learning how to lead is getting on a team of people that shouldn't be with me.
That's good.
For real.
Yeah. That's good.
I did not become. How are you going to lead a team of leaders?
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to lead a team of leaders? You lead a team of people that need leadership.
Yeah.
So I got that. And again, this is one of those things that we talk about all the time. We talk about a God thing. I think my parents didn't even know what was happening because I was such a shopped around player, guest playing for if they needed somebody to come save them or, oh man, we get CJ this weekend. I've always had this opportunity of playing some really talented baseball with some really talented players and also getting that call when we're off to play with a team that had no business having me on the team. But on that is when I learned the whole thing of playing down to your competition and what that meant. I didn't know what that meant until I started playing with a team that was just ball through their legs, throwing the ball over the fence, can't throw a strike, and I'm at shortstop like, why am I on this team? And instead of having parents that's like, we ain't playing with them no more. Those kids are sorry. We ain't playing with them no more. Those kids are not up to his level. No, my parents kept me there and said, lead them. Be that person that's going to build them up. And they were doing that at an age, so that taught me. At one point I do remember saying, man, why am I not good around these players, but I'm good on my other team?
Right.
Because I'm trying to do too much. I want to save them. I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yep.
But at a young age, I learned how to let that go because I was in those positions. So when I got older and I played on the same type of teams in pro ball or in high school or in showcase ball, I've been here before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've been here before. And I would say that would be the first thing. And then the second thing real quick is parents, please, at the younger ages, and I would say if I had to pick grade level, I would say no more than 10th. But at the younger ages, let them play multiple sports. Like I'm a huge advocate for multiple sports because of the psychology of it.
Yeah.
Cross country gives you a different mental beast than baseball. Football gives you a different mental beast than swimming. But if you can learn how to play multiple sports, that mental beast becomes one, and you get to pull from all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you with that. It's tough because I feel like the industry has changed so much that it's harder for a player now to do the multiple sports because it's become so specific. Where let's just say you take one 10-year-old kid and all he does is play baseball from 10 years old all the way to senior year of high school. He's training every day. You know, he's not every day, but training in the off season, going to lessons, doing all this. And then you take that another 10-year-old kid, same talent starting point. He's not doing those things. He's playing basketball in the winter. He's going to play, baseball in the spring, football in the fall, soccer in the fall, whatever it may be. That kid, when he decides to go just baseball, how far behind is he than that 10-year-old kid in a baseball skills standpoint at the 10th grade year where, is there a gap, or does that not matter? Now, when you're extremely talented, if you're an athletic kid, the gap isn't that big. But if you're not a really talented kid and you need that extra time, is it more beneficial for that kid to be more sport specific, even at a younger age, than necessarily? Obviously, you were an amazing athlete. Some of these other people are amazing athletes. They could do multiple sports, and then still, when they decide, hey, I want to go specific into baseball. They're still probably one of the top on the baseball field just because of pure athleticism. And then those mechanics and the refinement happens at a later age. But for someone who maybe is on the lower athletic side, is it important for them, I guess, is it still as important for them to do multiple sports? Because obviously there's a huge benefit to doing multiple sports, so like all the stuff you just said. But now that everyone else is being so sport specific, I feel like it almost forces these kids, in order to stay at the same level as these other kids, it's like it's forcing them into being more specific at an earlier age than it was when we were younger, because more people were playing multiple sports when we were younger. I don't know what you think about that. I've kind of dealt with that a lot just over the years of running into facilities, and people ask me, and I love playing basketball growing up. You could not get me to quit playing basketball just to play baseball, and I love baseball. But I don't know. It's that kind of that balance. Now that when I talk with parents, it's a tough decision. I feel like, just because the way the industry is now pushed. I mean, indoor training facilities, it's a business. It's a business model that wasn't necessarily. I don't know how it was in your area, but in our area, it wasn't necessarily a full-time business model in our area when I was growing up. There was a couple here or there, but man, now there's probably have 20 in our area. So with that, now more people want to train in the off season instead of maybe just going playing basketball. So. I don't know what you think about that. I was kind of all over the place with that, but it's just a little bit more challenging, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's a case-by-case situation.
Yeah.
If they're less talented, the first thing I would tell to a parent, if your child is less talented, we have to really, depending on their age, look at, okay, if he's less talented, then if he does want to go to college playing a sport, then we got to find out truthfully where your child is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We can't just box them up and say, they are here, so they should and only do this, or they need to do that. It's a case by case.
Yeah, that's good.
Because you could take Sam, that might be less talented, but to a degree of he needs to solely work baseball to have a shot at baseball at the next level.
Yeah.
But if we take a less talented, I don't care if he does work all off season, he's never going to play at the next level.
Enjoy himself, play multiple sports.
Then he needs to play multiple sports to be able to find something that could potentially lead him to fall in love with something that he has a shot at going to play at the next level.
Yeah.
And then also, I just think that, yes, we're getting to a point, but it's case by case, because even if you are a person, I still say try multiple sports, not just for the psychology of it, but also multiple sports. I believe personally that kids and people need breaks. Because
That's true.
mental breaks.
Agreed.
And physical breaks.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because it's no better feeling than taking a break to rekindle the hunger for your sport.
Yeah.
If you never take a break, it becomes, honestly, everybody is different, but for the most part, it becomes a job.
Yeah.
If you never take a break from it. That's why there's an off season for baseball. That's why there's an off season for all sports. There's no sport that continues all year long.
Right.
There's an off season. And in spring training, you're foaming at the mouth. Even as a fan, you can't wait to get to Arizona or Florida to just smell the grass, the fresh cut grass. But the only reason that stuff becomes a real thing is because of an off season, to reset, to talk about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel that families need off seasons.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Your pockets need off seasons.
Yes.
You know, and without that is where added stresses come into play, and that stresses then gets communicated down to the kids. Yeah. And then it's like, hey man, you need to go, you put this added pressure on it, like, hey man, you're behind, so we're gonna ramp up your winter training, and then we're gonna breeze right into spring tryouts, then we're gonna keep going again, and then next thing you know, when they get to high school, they burn out. Or when they get to college, at the junior college level, they burn out.
Yeah. I've seen that. No, you're right. That's a very, very, very valid point. I think that's a good point. And I also do think the multiple sport, an argument for it is you also are, I think it helps people be more athletic because you are learning different skills, whether you're things. Soccer, just footwork, and just being lighter on your feet could help with your fielding. You know, there's things that correlate to each other that without specifically training it, you're helping
it. Man, CJ, you need to go run track.
Right.
We're like, what? I thought I'm pretty quick. He's like, yeah, but they're going to teach you how to run.
Yep. Yeah, that's so true.
They're going to teach you how to run because right now you're everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're going to teach you how to run and be quick and get quicker.
Yep.
So I remember that track and speed training through another sport.
Yeah, so I think I always do still lean that way, but I have thought about just kind of the argument the other way, just where things are going. But I think those are really good points for sure. So you ended up, after high school, you ended up going to North Carolina A&T.
Okay.
Right? Yep, am I right? And you had a lot of offers, other places to go. Talk about going where you're loved versus going where you're liked.
Oh yeah, that's a big one, man, because it can go hand in hand, especially now with the portal being what it is. But I still think it reigns supreme in my life and my vision. Going where you love versus going where you're liked. So many people are falling victim to social media and the bragging rights of having the hats on the table at their high school to tell everybody where they're going. Every kid dreams for that moment. Every kid dreams for having 5 hats to pick up, and then where is he going? Where is he going? But everybody wants to be liked instead of going where they're loved so they can fail forward. See, when I chose North Carolina A&T, State University, it was more of a decision of, well, first I got a full scholarship, all baseball money, so that helped a lot. But he told us things that no other university was telling us. He was saying things on the phone like, we want to build this program around CJ. NC State wasn't saying that. And it has nothing to do with whether they believed in me or not, but they wasn't saying that. Right. And maybe they didn't have to say that because they're NC State in the ACC.
Right.
Right? And I wasn't throwing 100 miles an hour as a pitcher. I was just an outfielder, right? But they said we want to grow a program around CJ. CJ could fail and still be in our lineup because that's how much we believe in CJ. That right there it became something that we saw that I was important to them. So that's where I grew the saying, go where you're loved and not where you're liked, because of the simple fact that if I just chase, man, I just want to be in the ACC so I can hold it over my teammates to be like, man, you're going to the Wolfpack. I could go to NC State or UVA or LSU or Kansas, all these people that I got letters from, just to be able to say, man, dang, he's going to Kansas.
Right.
But in actuality, I'm going there to sit the bench because I'm just another number there.
Yep. Did you understand that when you were at
Yes,
that age? You did.
I did understand that.
That's huge because a lot of young players don't have that perspective.
I think the reason why I understood it the most is because I understood it without really understanding it,
Right.
and my basis was I didn't want to sit nobody's bench.
Yeah.
I've always started my entire life.
Right.
So when I found out the possibility of, hey man, you might go there, they might redshirt you, or you might have to sit out a year or two, but you'll be the man. I said, nah, I'm gonna go somewhere where I'm gonna play.
Yeah.
Like Beatty don't sit no bench, bro. Like what are you talking about? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna. So I'm gonna be the best guy, but I gotta wait my turn.
Right.
I'm like nah, I'm gonna go somewhere where I'm gonna play. Yeah. So my ears perked up, and through the recruiting process, NC State really wasn't saying they would like to have me, but again, they would like to have me, not love to have me.
Right.
So when that was happening during that recruiting process, we shifted. And before I landed on A&T, it went from I didn't get a letter from my dream school, which was Florida State. Never got a letter from them. So I said, all right. I got my mailbox was all the way filled with UVA. Coach O'Connor, it was filled with him. But I didn't realize how far that drive was from North Carolina, and I was just like, so you mean if I get up here, I can't come back? I mean, how often can I come home? So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go somewhere in state, and then the state games was at NC State, where the state games were held at Doak Field. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna be a Wolfpack, bro, all day long. And the size scholarship that they gave me was like, oh, this is pretty good. This is what's up. Nobody's really getting this. Yeah. Great, let's go. So I'm thinking like, man, nobody gets this scholarship. This is where I'm going. Well, CJ, before you make a decision, let's go to Elon University real quick. They're they're in the SoCon. They're only 40 minutes up the road, 45 minutes up the road. You might like that. Just give it a shot. Went on an official visit there, fell in love with it. They was getting ready to give me 90% scholarship.
Wow.
90% to go to Elon. And I was like, okay, Phoenix. I'm a Phoenix. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it, but I'm a Phoenix. Man, told everybody I love it. Business schools ranked high in the country. Man, I'm going to be Elon. Yeah, let's go. North Carolina A&T came out of nowhere and said, hey, man, listen. But they asked me questions, and this is the truth, and I'm going to share this. We didn't have an advisor or anybody advising us through this recruiting, and most parents don't. Most families don't. So when I was looking at this 90% scholarship to go to Elon, I was thinking that was it's still unheard of, like to get that type in baseball. But see, here's another thing that A&T did that no other school did. He said, how much, if you mind me asking, how much is Elon offering you? And we told him 90%. He said, whoa, okay. He said, CJ, but how much of that is baseball money? And we looked at each other, my mom and dad. We was like, oh, you need to ask them how much of that is baseball money. Because if it's not all baseball money, that means you either have to qualify for those funds or those funds might not be guaranteed every year. So lo and behold, we called and asked that valuable question. They fumbled over their words a little bit. And they was like, man, who you been talking to, like type stuff. And they came back and they were piecing together 90%. Sure. Like I had to qualify with academics and certain things to get that. I'm just making this up, but my dad was a truck driver scholarship, and being black on a Tuesday was another scholarship. It was like they pieced it together, and we were like, whoa. And then that's when it played right into A&T's hand, like, hey man, you can come 25 minutes down the road and we'll give you 100% all baseball money. That money will be guaranteed to you every season as long as you qualify with a 2.0 or better.
Wow.
Where do I sign?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that recruiting process, go where you're loved, not where you're liked. They fought hard for that,
In your book, you talk about how when draft came around.
Yes.
And how going to North Carolina A&T may have kind of affected where you went in the draft. Was there a time when you looked back and you questioned your decision to go to A&T because of that? Like, I mean, draft day was coming when, and you kind of tell that whole story. Did you ever think like, man, maybe I should have went to North Carolina State or wherever else, all the other options you had? Did you ever have that thought, or no, you were like, once you went there and you loved your experience, it was like, there was no turning back regardless what happened with the draft? I know I made the right decision. Or was there ever any doubt, I guess, in that?
To this day, baseball-wise, yes. To this day, I still think, and no, without a shadow of a doubt, if I did go to NC State and done the same thing,
Yep.
I would have gotten drafted in a lot higher, right? And my leash in pro ball would have been a lot longer, right? And that's simply, if some of y'all are asking how, is because back then, not A&T now, because if I would have, the way A&T is in the CAA now, if I would have went to A&T now, I wouldn't have had to have, I would have got drafted higher.
Higher, right.
Because they're in the CAA. They're in that bigger conference.
Yeah.
But back then, it was black college baseball. And colleges are based on the strength of the pitching that's in the conference.
Yep.
In the ACC, you're seeing, at that particular time, because this is jacked up now, like velocities.
Yeah.
But at that particular time, you're seeing every bit of low to mid 90s in the ACC in the conference.
Yep.
Right? Well, in our conference back in the MEAC, we was liable of seeing anything from mid 80s to upper 80s on average, and the closer might be low 90s. Yeah. So based off of that, and not being heavily scouted, because scouts are not all the way deep in black college baseball, that hurt me in the draft because there wasn't a lot of eyes on me.
Yeah.
But if I would have went to NC State and done exactly what I did in North Carolina A&T,
Yep.
because I ended up getting a lot of accolades of Louisville Slugger All-American alongside of All-Americans from Vanderbilt and all this stuff. I got national numbers. But if I would have done that at the ACC level, I definitely would have been top 10. Not top 10 picks, but top 10 rounds.
Because scouts were always saying, well, he hasn't faced.
And I get both sides.
Yeah, right, because you scouted.
Yeah, I scouted. So I get both sides on how you can, do I take Dave Valley, he's at Maryland Eastern Shore? Do I take this kid, CJ Beatty, that has a little less numbers, but he did it every day for Clemson?
Right.
I'm going to roll the dice with Clemson.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I get it.
Yeah.
But school-wise, no. A&T all day long. Yeah. that's my school, bro. You can't tell me.
Greatest homecoming on earth.
All day long, man. This is going down. I can't wait.
That's I heard you were a pretty big spades player on the Rolling Aggie.
Real. On the Rolling Aggie.
Yeah.
Oh my
and there
God.
was the rumor was there was a phrase that you used to shout out when you got a good deal. What was that phrase?
Padded off deal.
What does that mean?
Man, I'm telling you. So, alongside of the spades game, we played this game called Pat. And Pat is a wonderful game. Pity Pat is what we called it. And that's where you get dealt out 5 cards. Pay attention to this. Pity Pat. I'm telling you, it might break up some happy homes, so be careful. You deal out 5 cards, and of the 5 cards, your job is to have 3 matches. Okay, so once you get a match, once you pluck, I have plucked a 2. I have a 2, so I put the 2 in, and I discard another card.
Sure.
So now I have a match. So I have 3 cards left. And then next thing you know, when it comes around, if you discard a card and oh shoot, I need a king, and you take a 3, but you discard a king, I'm like, oh, got it, that's me.
Right.
So now I have the king, and I have 2 matches, and I throw this away. So therefore, I'm sitting here with 2 cards, and I need one more match to be padded. But the whole thing, so now you understand how to play Pity Pat. But the beautiful thing about it is, because we were gambling, so if you get padded off deal, meaning like if you get randomly 5 cards and you open up your hand and you have 2 matches in your hand, that's called padded off.
Padded off the deal, so that's where that came from.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes. So we got our teeth kicked in one day, and my manager walks on the bus, and I wasn't on the bus. I wasn't I got out of the locker room quick, right? So I didn't hear I better not hear nothing on the bus when we get back.
Oh, no. No.
Girl, my manager got on the bus, and the front of the bus was just quiet. There was no lights on in the bus, but back there in the padded bus, it was in the very back, you saw these lights on. We was back there you thought we was back there and just gambling at the casino. He gets on the bus, everybody's quiet in the front. All you hear, it was just definitely quiet like this. And all you hear, padded off deal. And everybody's like, I'm like, pay me my money. Let's go. Oh shit. Here comes Scoob. But that was one of the most funniest things ever in our playing, because I mean, it was fun playing as the underdog.
Yeah.
I feel like my school really embodied the underdog because we had a lot of that shenanigans going on. And we always walked in places, and people took us for granted because we were black college baseball. So walking in, it's like people didn't have high expectations for us, and we kind of governed ourselves like the rebels.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that we were doing was probably not going to slide at any other universities. But man, we have a lot of core memories together, man. But that was a funny story.
That's cool. That's really neat. Now you actually just got inducted into the A&T Hall of Fame, correct?
Yes,
Congratulations,
sir. Yes, sir.
man.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Did how important do you think it is for players to think about legacy while they're playing?
Wow.
Or do you think they should leave that till after their careers are over?
I think this is one of the things that you it's a byproduct of your hard work.
Yep.
I never did at any point think about the Hall of Fame.
Really?
I never thought about it.
Yeah.
It was just the only thing that I did think about all the time was getting drafted. That was my ultimate goal. I just wanted to get drafted. I just wanted to play pro ball. I wanted a shot at the major leagues. So I never really thought about legacy and trying to. Every now and again, you might, if you find out, what's the home run record? You know, something like that.
Right.
I want to be the all-time leading. But the ultimate goal for me that I always dreamed and talked about was getting drafted. Where am I at on this ranking? Where did Perfect Game have me? Oh, the new list for the top prospects of North Carolina came out for the junior class. Am I on it? Where am I at? Who's in front of me?
Yeah.
And things like that. So it's just always trying to improve your draft status was something.
Would you recommend that to young players to kind of be kind of not consumed? I'm not saying you were consumed with that, but just kind of like constantly looking. Is that beneficial? Is that does that cause a detriment to your playing ability if that becomes too much on your mind as far as, hey, my batting average just dropped? I mean, we all have had the kids that we've coached before. We have the kid that he gets a ball just underneath the glove of the second baseman and he's on first base and he's asking, did you get that a hit or was that an error? Was like my batting average is now this, like is that a good thing to be thinking about in your now looking back at it? Do you think it's fine?
I think that honestly, I would have said if I didn't. I got a story for you. Here,
okay.
And this is what happens. Growing up, before it happened in pro ball, I would have told you I think that's good to be able to know where you're at. Because it's something that's pushing you. That would have been my answer before I experienced what I experienced in pro ball. I didn't have the best statistical season of my entire life until I was in independent baseball with the Wild Things when I stopped chasing another opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
When I just gave up on trying to appease scouts and just played the game because I loved it, ironically, that's when I had the best statistical season of my life, when I stopped caring about what they thought and just played the game because I loved it.
Right.
So I would say, yes, lose yourself in the game. And what I teach others on stage now is lose yourself in helping others. So that right there, that lesson, when I had the best statistical season, is because I truly gave up on myself. And I said, I want to win a championship for this team. And I can't do it by myself. So when I go to hit, I'm bringing somebody with me.
Yeah.
When I'm going to long toss, I'm going to bring other people with me and pick them up. Whenever this pitcher is working in the bullpen, I'm going to give quality feedback. I'm going to say, have you ever thought about throwing this pitch in this count? Just giving you some feedback. So I was very inclusive with that. And by doing that, it was almost like that commercial. When you see somebody do a good deed, you're like, you want to open the next door.
Yes.
And somebody sees you and then they want to, I want to help this lady across the street. And then somebody sees you do that and like, you know what? And that's what happened. And that's how we became a championship ball team. It's because I was bought in to doing what was best for Dave.
Yeah.
And not what was best for CJ.
It's a great lesson, man.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's something that for sure I think needs to be taught to younger players. I mean, all players, obviously, but at a young age, the importance of that. And I think that also, could come back to your, when you had talked about playing on teams that weren't as talented as maybe your talent at a young age. A lot of times those are some lessons that you can learn even back then. Too, is bringing people up.
Yeah.
That's super, super important. That's a cool perspective.
I appreciate that.
On that. So you end up getting drafted. with the St. Louis Cardinals organization, right? You also coached in the St. Louis Cardinals organization,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
that's
scouted
crazy.
with them as well.
Yep, I did that as well. I did that as well.
So you've really had the full gambit of baseball, essentially,
Yes,
right? You
pretty
know,
much. Yep.
knowing what you know now, would you, like, if you were to be able to talk to yourself junior year of high school, would there be any advice that you would give to yourself?
Junior year of high school, knowing what I know now, again, that would be one of the first.
That would be one of those things. Yeah, just kind of do it for the team. Lose yourself in the game.
Lose yourself with the game.
Yeah.
Let the X's and O's fall. Let your hard work and dedication control that, but just control what you can control, and go out there and just lose yourself in building your team.
Yeah.
And the rest will take care of itself. It's inevitable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what I would go back and tell my junior year self.
And you were a switch hitter all the way through. Did you start switch hitting at 5 years old?
No, I started switch hitting around 9, 10 years old.
Okay.
Yep, 9, 10 years old. But I did not put it into play until I was 11. Okay. So 9, 10 is when it was like my dad was plastic ball.
Right, you were in the backyard trying,
try it out, get acclimated. We might do it one day.
Right.
And then 10's like, hey, this looks pretty good. Keep working on it. Now I'll do it for real with the real ball.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, this looks pretty good. And then going into my 11-year-old season, we were beating the team pretty bad, and I have not hit a home run. I still got my little league record, by the way,
really,
of home runs in the season.
Whoa.
On the 200-foot fences.
Dang.
I hit 13 this season, plus All-Star hit 17 bombs.
Oh my gosh.
Now it's crazy how, because a lot of the good players in little league are in travel ball now.
Sure.
But you go to the local little league now, you be like, hey, man, who's the home runner? That kid right there hit one last year. Like, hit one last year. You're like, really?
So you're saying it's going to be a long-standing record, you think?
Yeah, because of travel ball, that's safe. Nobody in little league, that is safe, right? But I remember like it was yesterday, I did not have a home run for the game. And there was a legit home run race back then. I don't know where I was at. But we had a couple people that was hitting home runs back then. And I didn't hit one for the game, and we was playing a weaker team, and I had one more at bat. My dad, being the deep voice, bravado guy behind the thing, said, hey, turn around. That's how my dad was speaking. Hey, turn around. And I knew that meant do the left hand, bat left-handed. Man, I'm like, I really didn't, because it's not game tested. Right. And I'm trying to hit a home run. I don't want a base hit, no hard ground ball. So, it's crazy how this works. I caught myself turning around, upset, disappointed, pissed off. So I said, I'm going to show him. I'm just going to swing as hard as I can and just miss and just swing hard. Dude, I promise you, first one, I felt like Kirk Gibson. I stepped across the plate and yanking outside pitch, went over the fence.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, and everybody else was like, hey, you do it lefty?
That's
and because I was 11 doing that, it really was more of a look at what I can do.
Right.
It's like I just found out I had a superpower. I'm just like, oh, shoot, watch this. Ooh, fire. You know, so I'm like, oh, now I got something else I can show. Hey, watch this. So then it became I can hit bombs left-handed too. Watch this. Coach, can I hit lefty? Coach, can I hit lefty? Right? But that's how it was born. Something that my dad made me do.
That's hilarious.
That turned out to be great.
Do you think? I don't feel like I see as many switch hitters now. Is that a dying art? Do you think that's? I guess just because I'd imagine the work that it takes to be a good switch hitter is off the charts.
It takes work. I think it's something that people don't understand. It adds value to you. It really does. And as a former pro scout, when you find somebody being a switch hitter, there's no stat that says if you can do it, that even though he's pretty good at it, let's stop him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's no stat out there unless you're for about a season or two failing miserably at one side, like one side's dropping bombs. I've seen situations where one side's dropping bombs.
Yeah.
And then when they have to turn him around, it's like he looks like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Then we've seen situations in pro ball where they're just like, hey, man, if you're going to stay in this organization, unfortunately, we want you to just focus on being a lefty hitter.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to amateur, I would encourage
it.
But it's hard to teach sometimes people be like, I'm gonna start switch hitting, and I'm asking, how old are you? And they're like, I'm about 14, 15. I'm like, it's kind of like switch hitting at that age is like teaching an old dog new tricks.
Yep.
It needs to be done when it's acceptable and it's okay and acceptable for you to fail.
Yep.
So like Little League,
yep,
rec ball, teams like that where winning is not everything. But can you imagine being Dave, the 3-hole hitter, and all of a sudden you want to start switch hitting, and we're in a situation in a tournament and we're trying to win,
right.
and your parents say turn around,
yeah,
and you're like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? Dave, time. Dave, come here, bro. What are you doing?
Yeah.
My dad told me to turn around. No, hey sir, how you doing? We're gonna work on that at practice.
Yeah.
We're gonna practice first time. Matter of fact, in the cage after this game, we can work on it. But now I need you to get a base hit.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
So it's hard when travel ball is so competitive
Yep.
for you to introduce something you want to try out.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to do it in the little leagues, the rec ball scene, where they encourage failure and it's okay.
It's a really good point, actually, because when I was younger, I started playing baseball a little bit late. But when I was younger, my dad wanted me to try switch hitting. So I threw lefty, I hit righty, which is the absolute wrong way to go.
Yeah,
that's
pretty bad.
That's bad. That's bad, right? So my dad really wanted to push me back to the left side hitting, and I had more power lefty, but I didn't have as much good contact left hand side, so I had much better contact from the right side. So we practiced, probably a couple of years going up, and it was 14 year, so a little later, kind of what you're talking about. We said, you know what, we committed for one season, we're gonna switch hit. Well, the issue for me being a competitor, and this is the wrong way mentality if you're going to be a switch hitter, is every single time I got out lefty, I was thinking in my head, dang, I would rip that guy right-handed. I struck out. It's like, man, I never would have struck out if I was batting right-handed.
Exactly.
And so I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable trying it. Obviously, I threw it away pretty quickly. But it's challenging, but it is a huge benefit. I mean, even when I scouted, I don't think I ever scouted a switch hitter locally. That's definitely a way to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
Especially now.
I'm telling you, dude, I remember being in pro ball. It's hard to come out of a lineup when you're a legit switch hitter.
Yeah.
Because, oh, man, this righty decapitates righties with this slider. I'm like, I smash his slider.
Yeah, right.
He slows the slider. Well, that's because when he throws it, it comes into me.
Yep.
It's like low and in, and I drop the head on it, and I'm like, se fue pelota. It's gone, right? Or, it's just like everything that is nasty pretty much comes into me. Even a curveball, it comes into me.
Yep.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the only real thing I got to worry about as a switch hitter is a good changeup.
Yep.
Everything else just comes into me or is straight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things that really benefited me, because when you're writing out a lineup in pro ball, especially, or high-level college, if there's a guy that has an ERA that's really good versus lefties, and he's a left-handed pitcher, you're not going to really stack your deck with all the lefties.
Right, yeah.
You're going to be like, this is a lineup that I'm going to give him a break because he doesn't hit lefties well. Well, for me, I hit lefties real well. Why is that? Because I'm a switch hitter.
Yeah, hard to take you out of lineup.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Now, you played how many years in affiliate with the Cardinals?
I played for about 2 years.
About 2 years?
About 2 years, yeah.
Was when you got released, was it a surprise to you? Did it take you off guard? Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a surprise. It was a big surprise because of the fact that, like, the day I got released, I did not see it coming. I knew I got off to a slow start that spring training year because at spring training we always have the physicals before you get started. Yep. You got the physicals. And in my physical, for some odd reason on the EKG, it came back irregular, like irregular heartbeat.
Really?
And sometimes it could be the machine, but to be safe, they needed me to go for a second opinion with the Cardinals heart doctor inside of in Florida. Okay. But it just so happened that most of the cases you go in the next day because we have priority. But it just so happened that it happened during the time when he was on vacation, right? Yeah, how ironic. So because that he's Cardinals heart doctor, and that's the only guy that they contract and they have any heart situation, I had to wait. So here, I had to literally wait. Like I think if we tested on Tuesday or Wednesday, he was going to be back in the office on Monday next week. So because of it legally, because think about that lawsuit. If something happens and they just be like, we'll just no. The moment that happened, they scheduled me for Monday. They said, do not touch or look at the ball. I thought they were playing.
Wow.
But literally, like, if I went to go bend down, you had the trainer be like, don't touch that. I'll get it. I thought, no, I'm serious. Like, don't touch that. Because hypothetically speaking, if you bend over and pick that bat up and do one swing and fall, and it goes on record that you took a swing when we have you waiting for a heart situation, that's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I couldn't touch a ball.
Wow.
So when everybody else is getting acclimated to mid-90s, days, every day you're in games, getting acclimated, pitching, I was just sitting cold. I couldn't do nothing but sit there. So when I got cleared after I saw him on Monday, get this, I saw him on Monday, but then we got to wait for the results. So Tuesday they cleared me, right? They got the results, but it was halfway through the day, so I had a whole 7 days of sitting.
Full week of sitting.
Behind everybody that I'm supposed to be competing with, right? So I got off to a slow start. So when everybody else is now have 7 days to get their swing and get their stuff, I'm starting from T, getting blown away.
And a 7 days is an eternity in spring training. I mean,
blown away with mid-90s, looking bad in the game in Port St. Lucie versus the Mets. They just blowing me up. Those Latins are throwing 95, and I don't know what's going on. Looks like a grain of rice coming in there. And what's tragic about that whole thing, before I got released, the 2 days before I got released, the ball became a beach ball.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm talking about hit a bomb. I'm talking about 2 doubles, just absolutely tearing the cover off. Like, now I'm back. Let's go. Literally, I show up in the locker room, like when I got released. I'm happy about life. I'm feeling good. I'm on top of the world. And everybody was loud on the bus and everything like that. But I guess the running joke then, well, not running joke, it's just that the saying was, anytime you saw the clubby, a particular clubby, outside of the clubhouse, you knew they called him the Grim Reaper. And some of the guys that's been there before that was riding on the bus, it was like, oh, shoot, he's standing outside. Oh, shoot, he's standing outside. Oh, shoot, he's standing outside. And that's filtering all the way to the back where I'm at in the bus. And the bus started to get a little quiet. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, yo, he's standing outside. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? That means he's letting somebody go. Anytime you see him outside, they want to catch you before you go inside, and you got to follow him to get the process started. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking like, I hope he's not there for me. So what happened was, that day, he didn't pull me. That day he didn't pull me. I walked right by him. But I
sense of relief when you walk by.
Until I got around the corner, it's like routine. You go around the corner and you look on the board that tells you the run of the day and the working rosters for each team, from AAA all the way down to rookie ball, on what field you're going to start on and what roster you're working on. So every time I went in there, I always used to start with my working team. And if it wasn't in high A, right, if I ended in high A, so I looked at my high A roster, I wasn't there. I'm like, what? Then I said, did they move me up to double A? I mean, I know I was not on the double A roster. And I didn't even go higher. I didn't say, did they? So then I went down to low A. And at that point, when I was on the low A roster, I looked on the inactive roster to be like, did I get in trouble? I mean, because it wasn't on that roster. And at that point right there, it started to settle in.
Like a pit in your stomach, probably.
Yeah. It like going to the principal's office, that long walk, or you know you're in trouble. That empty feeling in my stomach started to creep in. And everybody else was just going through. And most of the time, the way I tell the story, most of the time that whenever you then leave that bulletin board area, and when you go into the locker room, that's the locker room from AAA. AAA and AA is on the other side, and the rest of everybody is on the other side, right? Yep. So on my side, when you open it up, because we have younger players on this side, it seems like a flea market. You got, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You got the blacks playing hip-hop over there in that corner. You got the whites playing country and everything in that corner. You got the Latins just blasting out everything, reggaeton and everything in that corner. It was just an absolute roar. But that day, I opened up the door, and it was quiet. But the locker room was filled. It was like death was in the room. So as I'm walking to my locker, and I walked in and I made a left, I'm walking into my locker and towards my locker, and I can start to see like people like not want to make eye contact with me.
Mm.
Like I'm looking at people and they're like shying away from making eye contact. And then I'm still walking because it's a long walk. I'm at the end, and people are like turning their backs, acting like they're working in their lockers. And remember, I'm Hollywood Beatty, so I'm the life of the party. So the fact that they're not talking to me is like telling me like what's happening.
Yeah.
And then what gave it away is how did everybody know? Is because when I got to my locker was clean.
Oh boy.
Like, how do you sit there and laugh it off? Like, how do you sit there when everything was on this upwards trajectory your whole life and you're staring at an empty locker? And the only thing that you can think about right now is to go find the clubby and say, what's next? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that right there was that was one of the turning points, if not the most pivotal turning point in my life was that release, because that was kick-started everything else.
When you got released, was your first thought about that first week that you missed?
A lot of that went into
How long did that like kind of stew? I would imagine, if I'm trying to put myself in your situation, I've never been there, obviously, but I just think of, man, the thoughts of the what ifs.
Yeah.
Did that consume you for a while?
Very much so.
Like mentally, how much did that affect you? I mean, I've known a lot of pro players, and and the end of a career is one of the most difficult things. I mean, it can send people into depression, depending on how their career ends. And like, how was that for you? Especially, I didn't know that part about the week, and like that does make a huge part. And I know for myself, I would be thinking about that, like, man, that. Like, did you do that, or I guess, how was that mentally for you?
Yeah, not right away. Not right away. I don't ever think I don't think I ever went to that being the reason. My time with the Cardinals was not always the best because of the whole thing because of the fact, going back to what we talked about, because of the fact that I played black college baseball. Seriously, it's a real thing. I got drafted in the 26th round, and I had some great stats, All-American status, first team All-Conference. I did everything, right? My batting average versus top-tier schools were great. I mean, I did it. I balled out. But because of that 26th round draft slot and money that I received was throwaway money.
Yeah, right.
It was laughable money.
The investment
wasn't there. Was a cut in half dollar to an organization.
Yep.
No disrespect, but it is what it is.
100%.
So therefore, my playing time reflected that.
Yeah.
I played every Monday and Thursday, it felt like. Yeah. So me not getting a late start in spring training, I did not take it from that.
Take it from that.
I took it from my overall, like my batting average when I'm with the Cardinals, if you look at the back of it, was 179. Yeah. So according to the back of that card, I was a releasable player. But it was because I never played.
Right.
I rarely played.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's when I got introduced to the business of pro ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Where it's not the best always plays. It's the biggest investments get the most opportunity.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, that right there is what happened to me. So when I got released, I immediately went to that instead of I got to a slow start.
Yeah.
It was almost like I was doomed either way.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and that is actually another thing that talking with guys about. Until you get into pro ball, you don't realize the business of pro ball. Mm-hmm. Right? When you're it's something that every kid dreams of getting into pro ball, right? Mm-hmm. It's this big thing. And then once you're there, then you realize this is a business.
A big business.
This is a business, right?
It's a big corporate business.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a good, yeah, yes. That's tough.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's shift a little. Let's talk about after pro career ends, you get into entrepreneurship, business, the Motivator brands. Okay, you own a couple brands that are fall underneath that umbrella. I actually want to get your opinion on something here. I'm going to pull it up.
Okay.
Would you say jealousy is the number one spark for motivation?
Well, I don't think motivation is a real thing. I don't believe in motivation as a concept. I think discipline is real, and I also think discontentment is real. And I don't think it's possible for anybody to stay in a scenario where they're truly uncomfortable. If you fall asleep on your arm and your arm really starts to hurt, even in the deepest sleep, you're going to wake up and move your arm. If you sit there and your life has been in a rut for 7 years, you are semi-comfortable in that rut. Sure, there's days you're pissed off. Sure, you're semi-annoyed by it. But there's also days where you just play video games, eat pizza, and you're kind of cool with it, and it's no big deal. If you were truly unhappy and uncomfortable and discontent with your scenario, you wouldn't be in it. When I was broke, I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Please understand me. When I was broke, I couldn't sleep. I'd be trying to go to bed thinking, these people have Ferraris. I want a Ferrari. I couldn't sleep.
Dude, that's pretty much the gist of it. Give me give me your 2 cents. I know the video wouldn't actually pull up there, but you get the idea of what this guy was saying. Give me your first initial 2 cents on that. I have my own opinions of it, but I'd like to hear yours.
Well, I mean, I think that I think what he was saying, I just think that there's a deeper message inside what he's saying. I just think that it didn't come out right when he said, I don't believe in motivation.
Yeah.
I think either that is a clickbait statement, or because motivation is real and needed. Because think about this. How do you not believe in motivation when you contradicted yourself to say the whole part about I see a dude with a Ferrari, so that dude motivated you to want to have that Ferrari?
Yeah.
That's motivation.
That's what I thought when I listened to it.
So that's a contradiction. But I get what he was saying about the discipline, the difference between discipline and motivation. I get that.
Yeah.
But I think that they are two separate things, and you can be motivated, but in order for you to stay consistent, you do need discipline.
Yeah.
Like motivation is let's just say the gateway.
Yeah.
Like you motivate me, but you got to have discipline to go through adversities and to be consistent to get it, to obtain it.
Yeah.
But what led you to it was the motivation.
Yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to his definition of motivation as well.
Exactly.
Because even right after he said he didn't believe in motivation, his analogy of his arm, sleep, like you're motivated to move because of how uncomfortable you are.
Yeah.
Like there's a motivation in that as well.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. But I've heard that's a very Tik Tok thing.
Yeah.
As far as motivation isn't real.
Yeah.
It's like the discipline versus motivation. So I wanted to just kind of throw that out there.
What's crazy is, I guess you can get petty with this. Like if I was in front of him, I would be like, okay, so now I can't. If you don't believe in it, so how can I say what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning?
Right.
Or are you going to say my discipline? That sounds terrible.
That
like my discipline brings me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
so
yeah.
It's like the more and more you ask yourself, it's like motivation is a thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Everybody,
It is, of course.
So you're the guy that's going to tell me that 2 + 2 is 5 on occasions?
Yeah, probably.
It's just the way you look at it. I'm just saying, it's just the way you look at it. No, dude.
Yeah.
So there's down the hall is a padded room for you. And we got some people there waiting for you, okay?
Yeah.
Just stop.
What you get into obviously the motivation, speaking engagements. At what age did you realize you had the gift of communication? That happened early on, or was it?
No. And actually, it just how I became a motivational speaker is really how it happened. I was motivated by my role models growing up, the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the Derek Jeters, the Sports Illustrated magazines. Remember those?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Going to the dentist office and waiting for the dentist by looking on the coffee table at the Sports Illustrated for kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And inside of those magazines, they would share stories about how Peyton Manning would go to a school and give a speech, or they'll show Ken Griffey Jr. in his hometown at a high school doing an assembly. So those motivated me that I want to come back to my hometown if I make it pro and speak at schools, but never for a career. So when I became a pro athlete, I was uberly excited to come back and to do exactly that. So when I became a pro athlete, I went to the local schools, just calling the principals saying, hey, I would love to come speak for free if in an assembly. And they, of course, with me being a local pro baseball player, they were like, this is great.
Right.
And how I became a pro speaker was trying to figure out what was next for my life. My mother was like, "What are you good at outside of baseball?" And I was like, "I don't know. Is that rhetorical? Should I answer that?" And she's like, "Seriously, CJ, there should be something else that you're good at and passionate about." And I literally had to rack my brain for a few minutes to think about it. And that's when I said, people do say they love to hear me speak. The principals and teachers rave about me in the assemblies and say nobody had their attention like this, the kids' attention like this before. So
that was at what age? That was late.
That was 2010, 2011.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I got drafted in 2009, and
Right.
I was 2009 is when I started doing school assemblies.
Wow.
But I didn't do anything professional until 2013. So it was just me giving back. But then in 2012, 2013, when I launched Motivational Nuggets, my company, that's what the question that my mother asked me, and I told her they like to hear me speak, but I can't make a living off of that. And she's like, CJ, you'll be wrong to think that way. Because if you just simply Google motivational speaking salaries, you'll see that if you can get good at this, you can pay. So essentially how I became a motivational speaker is just by simply that. I Googled motivational speaking.
Wow.
And I saw what you can make and realized that I was doing it for free and loving it.
Yeah.
So I found out that they're going to pay me to do what I would do for free. Sign me up. I'm a motivational speaker.
Where did Tony Gaskins come in to the mix?
Shoot. Tony Gaskins, for me, came into the mix. I followed him on Twitter.
Okay.
Right? Twitter. I saw him speaking, doing some NBA speakings with some teams. I saw Tony Gaskin going to do the whole thing like E.T., Eric Thomas, speaking at university athletics, pro teams, and things like that. So I followed, of course, those two individuals. And both of them responded to me through Twitter. But me and Tony became close during those days.
That's now. Do you consume motivational content yourself?
Yes.
Who do you listen to?
And it's funny to say this because we're friends now, but growing up, I was introduced to Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas by way of a cousin of mine, because I was doing motivational speaking, but he was like, "Hey man, you remind me of this guy named E.T. the hip hop preacher."
Hip hop preacher. Yes.
And I was like, "E.T. the who? The who? What?" He's like, "Dude, you gotta trust me. You will not be disappointed. Go in here." I remember it was like 9:00 at night. We just got back from like a movie or something. He said, "Cuz, go in here and go on your YouTube and just type his stuff in. When you want to breathe as bad as you want to succeed."
That was the big one, right? That was the big video.
Then you'll be successful.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. And I went down the rabbit hole.
Oh,
Saw
yeah,
all his
yeah.
videos. Saw all that. And then that led me to Inky Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
I saw all his videos
So good.
and all that. And shout out to Ink. That's my guy. We're going to link up, you know what I'm saying? But Inky Johnson and then Tony Gaskins and just reading and listening to these guys and everything like that. But those were my motivations. Those were my motivators.
Yeah.
But nowadays is E.T., Ink, Tony, Joyce Meyer, T.D. Jakes, Les Brown, Tony Robbins, what's his name? God rest his soul. Gosh, Lee, oh my God. Jim Rohn. Now, that's one of my favorites. Jim Rohn is one of my favorite audiobooks to listen to. And John Maxwell is my favorite author.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, Maxwell's my favorite author. I love to read Maxwell books.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you listen to those guys being a motivational speaker yourself, do you ever like listen to something like, oh man, I wish I would have thought of that? Like, that analogy, that whatever.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever like, oh man?
Man, yeah.
Does that happen a lot?
Like, yeah, you become fans of their work. You're like, man, that was good.
That was good.
I like how he worked the crowd when he brought it back, and he's like, yeah. And then you over here taking notes, like, man, if I get the opportunity, I gotta bring that to it. But yeah, man, they are phenomenal, and I feel like every motivator has a motivator.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or if you don't, you need to have one.
Absolutely. Know? Yeah. What's the worst motivational advice you've ever heard?
The worst motivational advice? You know what? I don't know if I've ever got any like worse motivation
like bad
advice. I don't think I've ever gotten that.
Really?
Especially not from good motivators.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Worst motivation.
I don't know if you've heard anything in your travels that you're like, oh man, that's.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from fakes or anybody
Okay.
like that, because even the fakes know how to sound good on social.
Right.
But I know some of the things action wise, like meaning like, you know, some of the people that talk a big talk on I'm not gonna release any names, but they talk a big talk on social media, then they do the exact opposite when you meet them in person.
Yeah.
That's a lot of out
them.
there right now.
Really?
Like, man, back in the day, man, I was this, I was that, I was this, I was that, and that's why I help and do this and do that. And then you find out, like, wait a minute, he ain't helping nobody. Or can you tell me the last time he helped somebody? You? Can you? No, I don't know. But he's telling everybody to get his course.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I see a lot of that. And I think if I had to reach for straws on finding out bad advice with motivation, is thinking that I think one person was trying to really X's and O's me with trying to build a course is the only way of building out a brand through motivational speaking.
Yeah.
Like you gotta sell a course.
Yeah.
You gotta
See that
what's
a
your
lot,
top
right?
3,
Yeah.
what's your top 7, put a book out there, then once you do the book, then you gotta do it's like I'm like,
Yeah.
nah. So I don't think that was some good advice for me.
Well, I got some other videos that
Oh
I'd
man.
like to. All right, so this guy. So I like to get your opinion on this. Now, what
Like,
advice?
is this real?
This is real. This is a real motivational video. And I'd like you to give some advice to this young man. We're 3 videos. I found 3 videos of motivational people that may be questionable at best.
So I need to give advice to this guy.
Yeah, give advice to this guy.
Okay.
This is an older video. He's probably not listening.
Quick message for motivation. I just wanted you to know that if your life is currently in a downward momentum and it's not getting any better, it's kind of getting worse, then I just wanted you to know that it's probably going to keep getting worse. And once it gets really bad, like if you think now is bad, it's going to get much more bad. And once it gets to kind of rock bottom, at least you have like some floor to jump up from. Well, yeah, I know that's probably not very motivating, I know, but maybe it will motivate you to know that every time I bounced up and reached a higher peak, it was always from rock bottom. Or maybe the famous J.K. Rowling's quote, where she says, I basically built my success, and remember, she's worth over $1 billion. I basically built my success on the foundation of rock bottom. So there you go. You're gonna have a bumpy ride, and stay safe, keep digesting good content, and eventually, boom, you're gonna bounce back up.
Say leave that to yeah.
Any advice for that young man?
Let's focus on not breaking them down so much. Like I get the whole, tell them, but you already done told them. You don't have to say it's gonna get worse. And then after it gets worse, it's gonna get even more. And then
More
you're
worse.
Gonna reach for,
That's what killed me. That one.
That was like, dang, man. Like, so why am I living right now?
It's just gonna get worse.
Yeah. And when you think it's at the worst, it's not.
It's
there
not.
Yet. It's gonna get even more. It's like, dang, dude.
So that's motivational video number 1. Let's go to motivational video number 2.
That's pretty bad.
That's pretty rough.
No,
Let's
that
see
is
if this one.
Most of you should disassociate yourself from your children because they're losers. You're not. If your kids are 8, 9 years old, they're finished. There's no way humanly possible you're going to change them. They're through. So don't waste your time with them. Our kids turned out terrific, moron. What did you say?
How can you turn this around if you
Because, well, most of you, I'm not going to turn around. I'm not here to turn around. I'm here for my own self-expression, you idiot. I couldn't give a shit about you. You already get rid of him. Okay.
So he's actually a pretty famous motivational speaker, Daniel Pena. For real. Like, it's kind of wild. That's like it's his shtick is that he does that, and way worse actually. That's about the cleanest one I could find. It gets way worse than that. I mean, he tells some people that they should just take a gun and shoot themselves. I mean, it's pretty bad. Yeah, there's some pretty crazy stuff from Daniel Payne. Yeah, he's pretty wild. Yeah. So a different style of motivational speaking, I would say. I don't know.
Jeez. Dang, yes, that is a different style. I mean, it's it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
If the first guy needs some help. This guy right here, I feel like it's an acquired taste, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not gonna. I mean, we talked about it earlier today when we talked about different hitting philosophies. Yeah. You know, the way, I'm not going to say that he's wrong for the way that he gives his motivation. Yeah. But if someone leaves his platform or his event motivated with changing their life, I mean, it might not work for me or you.
Yeah.
We might call them idiots.
Yeah.
But if somebody leaves there empowered for some odd way that he makes a connection.
Yeah.
And obviously he's connected with somebody.
Sure.
And then, I mean, not to even take it that deep, but like let's go a little deep with that. Sometimes that type of kick in the butt is what somebody needed when they grew up. The way they grew up.
Yeah.
That was the way their father talked to them. That was the way their father talked to their mother. That was way that they felt like got them going. Yeah. Is being talked to like that. So me and you were like, no, because our parents didn't raise us that way. So we're like, that's a foolish way of doing it. Yep. But if somebody leaves there saying, hey, man, like I know it's rough, but that's what gets me going. Yeah. That's what gets me to stop feeling sorry for myself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I can see that.
No, that's good. No,
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, well
obviously I definitely don't endorse it, but I can see how.
Well, obviously he has an audience. Yeah, he has an audience. So there are people, and they know what he is. So, I mean, it's not like, it's not a shock.
Dude, I have people that say that they don't like Tony Robbins because he can sometimes, he doesn't get nowhere near that. But he can drop some profanity and some stuff that I'm like, well, I would never say that, right? Yeah. But that's Tony Robbins. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing with David Goggins. Yep. Yeah. You know, David Goggins will tell you, I mean, you're soft, you're weak, you're this, stop acting like a bunch of, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he has his way, but that gets people going. Yeah. But I know for my audience, I can't be the baseball motivator and be like, let me tell you something, you bunch of, you better get out there and give me a hard 90. And if not, all of y'all are.
Right, yeah.
You know, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because that's not my audience.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's a good perspective. All right, last one.
All right.
Last one.
But that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
You, just be you. Just be you. Stop thinking I gotta have this so they can like me. Stop thinking I gotta be like them so they can like me. Just be you. Being you is more important than what she say. Being you is more important than what he say. Just be you. Whoever's meant to like you is going to like you for being you. Just be you.
That's a real motivational video, by the way. This is what this guy does. He goes into Walmarts and stores, and he does that in all of them and gives motivational speeches while that's happening. Yes, that's a real thing.
Wow. Yeah, we are in a world where you can... Jeez, that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. Yeah, he's huge. Like on social media and stuff. Yeah, go viral. Obviously,
look, I'm just asking. Does he have a condition?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Safe to say we're not going to see Beatty Enterprises do it.
No. I mean, because I'm a big boardroom kind of meeting guy. So when it comes to things like that with my team, I just don't think that none of the people at my table would say, hey, CJ, have you ever thought about going into Walmart and getting a box of Lucky Charms, covering yourself in it, and then chocolate milk followed behind it, and give a motivational speech that lasts about 1 minute? And we're going to do that on tour. We're going to start in New York. We're going to go to wegmans. And then we're going to go down south. And we're going to go into Publix or World Foods. You know, I don't know. I want to be the fly on the wall in his strategy meetings.
Oh, my goodness. I'm not sure he has them. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure he's having the strategy meetings.
What's his representative's name? What's his marketing agency of record? I mean,
oh, my goodness. Yeah, the things. I think it's, obviously it's to get views. It's
Yeah,
it's
just
wild to get
be
views.
you. Yeah,
You know, but it is pretty crazy. It's just a funny one that I came across. On a more serious note, you know, with your stuff, obviously you talk about God, you talk about Christ, your relationship with Christ. When did you form a personal relationship with Christ?
I grew up in the churches. I did. I grew up in the churches. I played instruments. I was that little kid at a very young age that wanted to be the drummer, that took after the drums.
Yeah.
After every service, I would go up there and the drummer would let me bang on them for a little bit. Then that grew to me playing when I got older on midweek service when he was learning the keys.
Okay.
So he would learn on the keys and I would learn on the drums. And then that grew to I became the church drummer.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it's crazy how
That's
that
cool.
works. Then I also played trumpet for the church as well.
Oh, that's cool.
But I always grew up in the church. So the church was always in me, but I didn't always show the church.
Yeah.
Right? But the church was in me.
Yeah.
I didn't really, my testimony did not start until I got released by the Cardinals. Because that's when I hit rock bottom. That's when everything hit rock bottom for me. I was 21 years old. And I'm supposed to be in Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
But I'm driving up the highway headed back to Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Because they just got released. You know, so my life didn't spiral out of control, but that drive is when I had to turn to God to restore and to heal me. And that was the moment that I prayed and I gave up on myself to say, I need help. And that was the turning point for me. And I felt at that moment that God, I wouldn't say spoke to me, but how it happened was I was in the car. I got my first speeding ticket on the way back home after I got released. I'm telling you, dude, it was my first speeding ticket ever. I've been driving since 16, my own car. I'm 21 years old, 5 years later. When did you use your first speeding ticket? When I got released from the Cardinals on the way home, when my world was crashing down. But I remember, like, it was a 10 and a half, 11-hour drive back. I just got there 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago. And I remember halfway through that trip, I would have never, like I was so distraught, I would have never stopped. I could have drove to Maine from Florida if I didn't have to use the bathroom or get gas. I could have drove to Maine because I had this blank stare, all the windows down, just driving. But I remember halfway through, I didn't want to call nobody. I mean, you don't want to call your boys.
Right, you don't want to talk to anyone
You
about
don't want to talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, what's going on? Aren't you supposed to be in spring training? You didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to listen to no music. I didn't want to listen to my favorite hip-hop song. Like, literally, it was just the windows down, driving up 95. And I was crying and crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. And then I remember this one song. I remember this one song back in church that we used to laugh at all the time. This older lady used to always sing. Oh, my God, here she goes. She's about to sing this song. And the song was, hallelujah anyhow. Never ever let your troubles get you down. Whenever troubles come your way, hold your head up high and say, hallelujah anyhow. And we used to laugh like, oh, Lord, here she comes. Because it was like an old song where everybody just rocks back and forth and goes like this. So it's nothing like that we want to jam behind.
Yeah.
It's just hallelujah anyhow. Hallelujah. I'm on the drum. Hallelujah anyhow. So, but it's crazy how a song that us kids used to laugh about saved me.
Wow.
Right? And the power of hallelujah, right? And I'm in that car, and I didn't think of no rap song from Lil Wayne. It was not a friendship call because I didn't want to call my friends. I've already talked to my mom and dad. There was nobody else I could call, right? Nobody else I could call. So at that point, I sang that song.
Wow.
And here I am. I'm not a Bible thumper at this time. Like I said, I grew up in the church, but that didn't mean that I showed the church. So it wasn't like, man, I had the blueprint. Oh, man, things not going right. Let me turn to Zechariah. Let me turn to Job. Let me turn Songs of Solomon. Let me go to Proverbs. I didn't have that access. I didn't have that blueprint. I just played the drums in my church. So you can be in the church, but the church might not be in you. So, but the only thing, because I was in the church and present in the church, because words stick, Holy Spirit moves and it touches you. So it touches me in a way that even though I didn't know what to do and what to turn to, it's still, when I was in a deep part of my life, when I hit rock bottom, it was still present. It was still present in a dark time. When everything was dark around me, this one song that I laughed at was the only light in that dark tunnel. And something told me, and when you think about it, when you say, something told me, you know what told you. Something told me to sing that song. And here I am, and the only music that I had in my car was me audibly singing Hallelujah Anyhow. And what's amazing about it is because it's a short song. You heard it. Hallelujah anyhow. Never ever let your troubles get you down. Whenever trouble comes your way, hold your head up high and say, Hallelujah anyhow. And it was crazy as I repeated that song for an hour. And the moment, every time I sung this song, I felt like the shackles and the weight and the embarrassment and the depression and the anxiety and the fear and the doubt and the worry, everything that was not of God, I felt it start to slide off of my shoulders, and I felt like I was becoming reborn. Every single time I sung the song, my voice got stronger. I sat up in my chair. I rolled those windows up. I turned the air on. I started listening to more. I felt the next chapter start in that car.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's my testimony that I always share with when I have the opportunities to share it. When I'm filled to faith with Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So what's your testimony? When did you find God? It was that.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It was that.
From that moment, were you all in after that moment? Was there a time where it took time? Because I heard you talk about, I think it was either a few years ago, you basically said, I'm going to give everything to God. I'm not going to, for my desires, I'm not going to work for my desires. I'm giving everything over to God. Obviously as Christians, we grow. We're constantly growing. We're constantly being shown, our blind spots. And like, from that moment, was it like, hey, man, I don't know if you were going to church when you were playing pro ball. Did you get back involved in church like right away? Was it like, I guess, how was that process, to even where you are now? Was that a kind of just a straight uphill, or was it kind of down, dips and valleys over the course of that after you got released?
That moment in my life is really what started my growth with my faith. It started it. Prior to that, I believed that I was in control. So I needed something. And a lot of times God uses moments like that to bring us to him.
Yeah, that's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. If you're not humble, God will humble you quick. He'll let you know who's in control quick.
Yeah.
He won't destroy you, but he'll humble you. And he'll use something to really bring you to him. If you feel like you can in control, I mean, literally, like my mom always say, when somebody be like, man, it's me. I'm who I am him. I get like I don't want to be around this. Like, this is it's very uncomfortable because even though it's not me saying it, but somebody in front of me being like, man, like, I don't need God. Hey, man, I'm God. You're like, ooh, okay. Yeah. I need to get out of there quick. Like, I start to get fearful. Like, first of all, I don't want that to be nowhere near me. That's him. That's me.
That's right.
Good. We love. We're good. But back in the day, I felt like that. I felt like, man, I earned it. I did. And so that was an opportunity for me to understand, a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Like, no, you need to include God with this. Like, this is him. But so that started me on the journey, but I still wasn't there.
Sure.
I still didn't commit. I still didn't go all in. And I have not, starting then, I didn't start to go all in until, like I said, I think, shoot, to be honest with you, like 2 years ago.
I would say, I remember, yeah.
I didn't go all in until it was like recent.
Wow.
Shoot, I think it was honestly not even 2 years ago. It was November the 19th, 2023.
Wow.
Last year. Yep, November 19th.
Wow. What brought you to that point? Was there something that happened that brought you to that point? The trucking company. Go into that a little bit.
The trucking company happened. If you know me, you know that I start a lot of businesses, a lot of companies, a lot of brands. I started the trucking company because literally in my office at home. My TV was behind me, and it was on Fox Business. And I remember them saying, trucking is at an all-time high that it's been in 2 decades. Like, rates are up, everybody's getting paid. I was just like, oh, shoot. And I was thinking about investing in either real estate or something. I wanted to take that investment money that I had, and I said, well, I was thinking about my dad. Well, if trucking is where it is, my dad has nearly 40 years of trucking. I said, well, my business acumen and his field experience, we can come together. We can build something out that can be legacy. Thinking about the legacy. You know, thinking about just the money, but I was thinking about more so, man, we can have our own trucking company.
Yeah.
And my dad, when he retires, he can run it, and I can help out, and that'll be something he can transition into. Get a couple rigs and a couple contracts and blah, 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 let's go. So I jumped into it. But ironically, as the story unfolds, the moment that I clear the LLC, the moment that I start to make moves to get rigs, get a bank account, do all this kind of stuff, and like, boom, I have everything I need. I have a company giving us a great contract. I have everything I need. The Ukraine war hits.
Oh.
They're like the war hit.
Yeah.
And that topsy-turvy and everything. So, but that for me, bro, was an absolute punch in the gut financially.
Right, because you invested that money that you were going to invest. You invested a lot of money into that.
Trucking took so much of a hit that I was losing, and I can say this, I was losing per truck. I got up to 2 trucks fairly quickly. People told me, hey, man, do one. Don't be okay. It's going to be okay, but do one for at least a year. At least a year. I did 2. And I was losing, at one point I was losing like around $1,200, from anywhere from $780 to $1,200 a week per truck.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
A week I was losing. Like, I thought I was paying it, because in the trucking you pay weekly bills.
Oh my gosh.
And I was losing that. Like, after I paid my drivers and done everything else, for that week, for my truck, one of my truck name was Ghost, and the other one was Iceman. Ghost, negative 780. Iceman, negative 1120. The next, I was losing each. So all of that money that I had saved up was I ate through it 8 months out of the year, from insurance to I just ate through it. And I could have seriously left my drivers high and dry and their families if I was selfishly thinking about myself, but I couldn't do that because I made a promise to their families. Because they left good jobs to come drive for me. So I didn't want to be just like the industry and say, hey, Dave, I made this promise to you and your wife that, hey, man, if Dave comes and drives, that we're going to take care of him. Even if they saw that I was losing, I fulfilled my obligation, and I said, hey, I can carry, instead of giving you a 30-day notice to find a job, I said, hey, man, how much longer do you need? And he was like, man, if you can give me 4 months, that would be good. So I weathered it. But carrying 2 families for an additional 4 or 5 months, I'll just be open, because I've never been open about it. In my rainy day money, for me personally, mixing in the stuff I started to save when I was in the minor leagues and everything else, I literally had about $96,000 that I had saved up personally for me. And I was good, because, I mean, prior to trucking, I lived the bachelor lifestyle.
Yep.
I didn't have no employees. It was me and my camps, clinic speakings. I didn't have no overhead. It was just great.
Yeah.
But doing that, dude, I almost lost. I got down to my last $6,000 to my name. Nobody knows. To my name. And this was recent. To my name, because of the trucking industry.
Holy smokes.
So, like, when I was down, like, thinking about that, like, we're saying my daughter is 3. I said last year, right? Yeah. That was like last year. $6,000 to my name. For real. And that's when I said, I'm tired of doing this by myself. And then that's when I realized it's time for me to turn my life around. So when everybody sees online the Jesus One brand and I'm wearing this and I'm open, that's because I'm like, yo, hey, let me tell you something. The moment I became vulnerable is when I started to boom. Yeah. That's crazy how that works, right? Yeah. The moment when I said, yo, it ain't me, it's my homie upstairs. and I started putting God on the front street, Jesus on the front street, that's when opportunities started to come out of nowhere. Ideas, investments, people investing in me, partnerships, upfront money, guaranteed this. And it seemed and crazy how this works, but it seems like it didn't take a rocket scientist for me to be able to say this. Well, I feel like the more and more I talk about this guy named Jesus to everybody and really genuinely point people in the direction, he's providing me all that I need. That ain't hard to me. I'm just over here like, well, if that's the case, let me tell you about this man named Jesus and what he did for me. What did he do for you? Let me tell you what he did for me. And I was on that. Yeah. And November the 19th, prior to me saying that, is I had to become vulnerable then. So early November, and this is crazy, this is a beautiful story. Early November is when that moment happened. I got cleared of the trucking company in early March 2023. I got out of a situation that seemed to be, I can't get out, but God got me out. But because the financial hit took a toll, even though I cauterized the wound, I still was in a deficit. Sure. I had to replenish the wells. Yep. And how was I going to do that? Right? So I think from April, as an entrepreneur, from April until November, it was me figuring out things by myself. I got to call. I got to make a call. I got to call. Let me call D. Let me see if I can get Valley to do. Let me see if I can call Steinman, just calling out names. Let me see if I can call Ferber. Let me call, hey, man, we got a link to do something. And stuff was falling flat on his face. Things that I used to could just call and make happen was just not happening. I would just call, like, let me just do a speaking. Let me just let somebody know on my Instagram that I'm available for speakers. And the stuff used to work was just like this because it was God blocking so I could come to him. He was showing me that he was in control. He said, oh no, CJ, every door you're trying to take, I have closed. And there's only one door, and that's through to me. So November, it took me from March until November for me to realize that every door that I want, he keeps closing. So I gave up. I said, all right, then, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of fighting it. I'm tired of carrying it. I'm exhausted. It's affecting my life, my wife, my kid, my communication. I'm slipping into depression. I'm tired. I need help. And because the church was in me, I knew where I needed to go. Yeah. And I then I wasn't a Bible thumper, but I knew where I needed to go. So I simply prayed a prayer. And I simply say, hey, look, Lord, I talk to him just like anybody else, just like I'm talking to you. I just say, hey, Lord, listen, I'm tired. And I am seriously needing your help. I've tried to do it my way. I've tried to do everything that I know possible to be able to get this cloud away from me. But I need your help. And I don't know exact words to say, but I just know that I'm coming to you and I'm ready to just, whatever you say, do, please, just help me. And I'm ready. I prayed that prayer in November, right? And this is going to take you on a crazy roller coaster to show you how real God is. I prayed that prayer in like the first week of November. Don't remember the day. And I kept praying that prayer. I remember my grandma said, hey, you keep praying that prayer till you see it. And I prayed that prayer every night. Like, Lord, help me, save me. I don't know what's up. Lord, help me, save me. I don't know what's up. I played in a scramble back in August with an investor named Keith. And it was a random, the guy didn't show up, Dave. The guy didn't show up. So not Keith, but the guy that was supposed to play with him didn't show up. So they called, oh, I know a guy that's pretty good. You come play. And by the way, you're playing with an investor, so just play with him, pitch to him, see if there's some synergy. I said, cool. I'm playing for free. Might be a great opportunity. Nothing happened back in August. But in November, when I prayed that prayer to God about saving and helping me, I reached out to Keith. And Keith says, hey, man, I'm sorry I've been traveling. I know we've been trying to meet to reach each other. How about let's meet and talk? You pick a steakhouse or anything close by you, and I'll drive to you, and let's just meet. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what you got going on with Beatty Enterprises. So again, I said, okay, cool. We had this thing. Guess when the dinner was? November the 19th. So on November the 19th, I went to this steakhouse. And before walking in there, I didn't know what to prepare for. I am absolutely don't know what to expect. Remember, I've given up everything to God, so I don't have a hidden agenda. I don't have an agenda. I'm going into this saying like, look, Lord, I mean, he's an investor, but I don't I don't know how to prepare for this opportunity. I get inside of Fratelli's, the steakhouse that's in Winston. Very good steakhouse, by the way, one of my favorite steaks. I get in there and I don't have an agenda. I just walk in there and I just felt something say, be vulnerable. So when he asked me, how can I help you? I told the man, I just said, listen, this is what's going on. And this is where I'm at in my faith. I pray to God that I'm just like, look, I'm vulnerable. I don't know what's up. I'm just leading. I need some help. Can you help me? Keith, I don't know if that's for you to just point me in a direction. I don't know if that's, I don't know what. He said, stop, dude. Just tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. And I said, what I want? Yeah. What do you want? I said, I'm like, I don't know. I can't think about it. I mean, just tell me. He's like, seriously. And he's cutting up his steak and he's like, take your time. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, like usually when somebody gives you a loaded question and you're struggling to answer, they just be like, just get back with me. Let's get the steak. Now he's like, take your time. We got all the time. Just take your time. I'm like, okay. So I think about it. Like, what do I want? Like, what do I want with my business? What do I want? I literally was like, okay. I got it. He said, all right, cool. What do you want? I said, something in me just said, just go for it. And I just went for it. I said, I want a sports complex. Not just a facility. I want a sports complex. Like down in Lake Point, Georgia, like down in East Cobb. I want a sports complex. Because motivated brands can be ran out of it. It can have all the golf, all the simulators, all the softball, all the baseball. They can play basketball, volleyball. The East Coast needs it. My hometown needs it. I want a sports complex. I can run everything that God has blessed me with at that sports complex. He says, okay, how much do you need? I'm over here like, yo, this is, no, take your time. Like, I mean, what do you think? How much do you need? What do you think something like that'll cost? I'm like, and at that particular time, I have done at least some research just to have the very basics. So I'm thinking like most of turf fields are like around $1 million per turf field. Yeah. So if I say 12 fields, so I got to, if I want 12 fields, that's like 12 million. And then the building, I just throw another $1 million on that. And I'm just like, I don't know, 20, 30 million. Maybe? Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going to say over 50. I'm like, so what do you, he said, nah, it's not any guarantees or anything, CJ, but I mean, for this area, this would be great for this area to have something like that. And I might have some investors that might want to take you up on something like that. Do you have like any business plan drawn up? And I said, and I couldn't get past the part where he was like, if I would have went over 50, I mean, just what? I'm like, what is this a thing? Like, can I have this? But I said, no, I don't have and I had that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire answer pop up and I could hear that music playing. Boom, 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 boom. Like when he asked me, do I have a business plan? I could have lied and been like, yeah, but we just kind of tightening it up right now. Yeah. But again, vulnerability came up in front of my face. And I said, Keith, no, actually, we don't have a business plan. But I would love for you or your team to help me with that if possible. He says, oh, that's sure thing, no problem. I tell you what, do your research. Tell me everything you need, everything from the stapler to the roofs, the netting and everything. Just do all of that. Itemize everything. Get it to me, and we'll put it in the way it needs to be that my people would like to see it. And we're going to shop this thing around for you. No guarantees, but I can at least shop it in front of the right people. I start to like tear up a little bit because it was crazy how I walked in with no plan, but the only thing that I had was the armor of God. Yeah. Like I walked in there like being that little boy, but the only thing that I was holding in my hand was a mustard seed of faith. I didn't know what the outcome was. But it's crazy how things started to happen the moment that I said, God, I'm not in control anymore. You are. Yeah. And on November the 19th, that was another a rebirth day for me in my faith, because I walked into something being the David, and life was like the Goliath, and I was able to slay Goliath because I thought that I was inferior. I thought that I was not prepared. There's no way in the world I'm walking out of here with something. I don't know what I'm walking into, and I walked out with everything. Yeah, wow. You see what I'm saying? So off of that momentum, it really gave me everything I needed for my business and my company. So not only did I convert over to being vulnerable in my faith, but it led me to be vulnerable in my marriage because I saw how it worked in my faith. It allowed me to be vulnerable as a parent. It allowed me to be able to communicate with vulnerability. Like, I don't know everything, guys. I'm so sorry if you thought I did. I don't, but I want to hear from you. Yeah. Vulnerability became our mantra in Beatty Enterprises. It just really became something that I wanted people to see, and they saw that in me as a leader, and that helped us grow closer as a company. Vulnerability. So that's why I say November the 19th was something that will stay with me forever. Because, yes, the Cardinals release, but the next point was November the 19th. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm still eating on right now since
it
was
goodness.
last year when it happened.
Isn't that funny how and it's I mean, it's an incredible story, and how quickly God works.
Yes,
right.
It's insanely.
I mean, you know
it's
what
laughable.
I mean? When our heart is in the right posture towards Him, how quickly He is to honor us and bless us in those moments when we're where we need to be. You know, man, that's powerful.
Yeah, man, it's comical. It's comical how quick God can move. Like, it's comical. Yeah. You sitting there like, he did what? You said he did what? Yeah, dude, I was sitting here and I was just in the restroom. Yeah. And this guy had this A&T shirt on, and I asked him what was going on, and it turned out that he was an investor and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But we was in Colorado. It's like, God is like, man, God is that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's that guy.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I think that's a good place for us to kind of end it today. I think it's a good food for thought for people too when they're listening in too, and I think it's an important message for them and to think about. And I thank you for sharing that with me, man. That's
no
you know, talk about vulnerability. I appreciate the vulnerability in that story.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll kind of wrap it up. But CJ, obviously, thanks for being with us. If you want to catch CJ anywhere else, we'll put all his stuff in the description. He's on Instagram, TikTok, again, anywhere where social media is, I would imagine at this point. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of questions I didn't get to today, but that's okay. You know what? I think that's what I was excited about to chat with you about. Just the organically, wherever the conversation was going to take us, that's where I wanted it to take us. So I know I could have went into music. We didn't really dive into all the entrepreneur stuff but you know what? There'll be another time. We'll have to have you come up again then. All right. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us and stay updated with what we have going on. And until then, God bless. Thank you so much for watching this episode of our podcast. And if you're looking to watch more content from this guest, feel free to click right here. And if you want to watch another one of our episodes, click right here.